Independent Electoral Commission says it is ready for any eventualities come May 8. Millions of South Africans will head to the polls in the country's 6th democratic election. Reporter Khayelihle Khumalo is following that story. Let me take you live now to the Independent Electoral Commission's Results Operations Centre. You'll hear the word ROC being bandied around over the next couple of weeks. That's exactly what it stands for. Well, Khayelihle, good afternoon to you. So how ready then is the Commission in terms of these elections? I'm assuming they say it's green lighted, all systems go.
Well, absolutely, Jeremy. Just a short while ago, we just got an assurance from the IEC that they have everything in place. In fact, some of the votes that were cast abroad now, they're really making their way to the country. So once again, they spoke about the issue of safety to make sure that they're well stored so that they're not tampered with. But other than that, Jeremy, they're also stating that they'll be working with the police service to make sure that all the polling stations, about 22,000 of them, are well secured as well.
Was any allusion made to cyber security and possible attacks? That was an issue, Khayelihle, that was raised by the IEC to ENCA a couple of weeks ago.
Well, absolutely, Jeremy. We got an opportunity of speaking to Commissioner Janet Love, and she really stated categorically that from their side, this is a big phenomenon. So it's one of the areas, it's a priority point of making sure that the cyberspace is protected, but also the activities as well, looking at the areas pertaining to social media as well, to make sure that there is no disinformation that is disseminated across to South Africans. So it's one area. Really, it's a focal point where they're trying to tighten the screws and making sure that really there are no glitches.
And just finally, the electoral court itself is busy in the run-up to the election.
Well, precisely, Jeremy, but also we know that there has been a plethora of court cases that the court faced, and also they just welcome the news, the development in the court that particular case involving independent candidates has been dismissed. So from their side, they're saying it's a huge relief. Because if, the case went the other way, they had to reprint and rework everything. So logistically, it seems to be working out for them. But also, they're really reiterating that if you don't have your ID, you have to go to Home Affairs. They'll be operating. But also, Jeremy, more importantly, we know that the special votes will be starting on Monday. So that process will be starting around 9 o'clock and they'll finish around 5 p.m.
All right, 5 days to go. Khayelihle Khumalo, thank you. Let's continue with that constitutional court case.